You're listening to the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast, where we aim to simplify online business so you can make more money. Now, here's your host, Derek Gale.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast. This is your host, Derek Gale, and today I'm interviewing a really long-time internet marketer and online entrepreneur, also a best-selling author of, I believe, 12 plus books now. And today we're going to be focused on one of those books and one of the areas that he's a leader, an expert, an authority in, and that is Twitter. And the gentleman I'm referring to is Mr. Joel Comm. Joel, thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And it's been so long since we've spoken, Derek. So this is great to catch up.
Yeah, it has been a long time. You know, it's funny. And I was just having this conversation. In the world of internet marketing, we can follow each other so easily, right? So it's like, yeah, I see what's going on. I feel like I've been following you and we've been in contact, but then you realize that years go by and you haven't actually spoken.
Yeah, that was actually stalking, Derek.
Not... right. Okay. Sorry. Sometimes I blur the two.
It's okay. I'll call your parole officer. We'll get it taken care of.
Oh, good. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Just a note for everybody listening, I don't have a parole officer.
No, it's true, though, because, you know, with social media, we watch, you know, we follow a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it does feel like we're more connected to more people than ever before. And that's one of the reasons I love social so much.
Yeah, and it is. It's amazing how connected you can be to so many people. I mean, you got to think our circle of influence, our circle of friends, people that prior to social media was so small comparatively to what it is now and how many people we're following. Now, Let's first of all, before we jump into this, Joel, you've been online now for forever, for flipping ever. Give us a little bit of your background. How did you get started online to becoming the Adsense guru, to becoming a best-selling author, to becoming this Twitter authority, and so on and so on?
Well, if we set the Wayback Machine truly way back to where it began, it was in 1980 when I was 16 years old, and I used my savings from my job at the food court to buy a TRS-80 Model 1 computer with 4K of RAM, no hard drive, no disk drive. It had a cassette player that you would use to save and load programs from. And I had a 300 baud modem, which was incredibly slow, one of those coupler modems where you would dial and then you would listen for the sound on the phone. You'd put your receiver on the coupler and it would communicate with BBSs, bulletin board services. So technically, I've been dialing into the online world for 35 years. It was in 1995 that I launched my first website 20 years ago. And that website just turned 20 years old, worldvillage.com. And it's getting ready to go through a whole new update and doing a facelift on it and some new direction. And so I've been doing this for a long time. And man, now do I feel old.
Wow. Okay, so World Village launched in 1995.
Yeah. There was only 18,000 sites that year, Derek.
That was my question. Yeah. How many sites were there? 18,000 websites in 95. I mean, God, that was back in the days of Netscape and Alta Vista and oh, wow. That's
cool. Front page wasn't even Microsoft front page yet. I have a boxed edition of FTP front page. It was the initial one before Microsoft bought it and, of course, turned it into a web designing platform. Wow. A long time ago in a galaxy that really doesn't seem that far away, but I've seen a lot over the past 20 years, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, wow. Yes, you have. Now, you have become, as the internet's evolved, you've become an expert in so many different things. You've authored. Was I right when I said 12 books?
Yeah, you nailed it. 12 physical books and 40 plus ebooks or special reports that are all digital.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about Twitter today. What if you had to define yourself? How would you define? Where is your expertise? What is your passion?
You know, it's a really great question. In fact, I'm working on a blog entry because I had another interview last week where somebody said, how would you define yourself? And it's when you hear the silly terms that people bat around, entrepreneur, renaissance man, creative, whatever. And I'm like, I don't see myself as any of that. I see myself as a guy with a pail and a shovel looking for a sandbox to play in. And I think it's that openness to explore, to pay attention to the bright, shiny objects and the things that I find stimulating and interesting, and then being willing to take a risk and try something new. And I think that's why I've been able to cover so much ground and do so many different things, is because of the curiosity and the excitement I have over new technologies. Like right now, I am so pumped about live video streaming. I think that live streaming online is the new blogging. It is the new platform for content creation, and it is what podcasting was, 3 years ago when people were really starting to beat the drum. And there's so many that still haven't caught on to podcasting. Obviously, you have, but many haven't. And I think video streaming is the next thing. And I'm starting to conduct my interviews via live video stream using services like blab.im. And if you haven't seen it yet, Derek, I might be telling you something new because it's so fresh. This it goes beyond what we're hearing about Meerkat and Periscope to a level where now it's like Google Hangouts done right, where you can interview and bring guests on and powerful stuff.
Okay. So now we're totally going off on a tangent, but I want to know about this. Okay.
Yes, that's what I do.
Yeah, and that's all. I love tangents. I'm always on these, and so let's see where this takes us. We'll get to Twitter eventually. Twitter will still be there. So
if not, go buy my book. Twitter
that's
Power
exactly.
3.0. It's all in there.
So okay, so. I've been using Periscope and there's Meerkat and stuff like that. That's all really restricted to mobile. Now, tell me about this blab.im, because I agree. I mean, live real time is kind of the way. Google Hangouts exists, but it's not my favorite.
Right, and it's not a lot of people's favorite. And when I say, of course, Google, they experiment and they try stuff, but they don't really listen to feedback. They do what they want to do, and then they usually end up failing in so many ways.
Google Plus.
Yeah, Google Plus, going down the drain. Wave, Buzz, Orkut. I mean, the list of the Google graveyard, that cemetery is filling up. Google Helpouts, great technology, but they didn't know how to market it.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, but they shut it down because they gave up. And they really need to be contacting people like you and me who are marketers to say, all right, how do we get this out there?
Yeah.
So what blab.im is a simple platform where anybody with a webcam and a microphone can set up their own blab. And unlike Meerkat and Periscope, where it's pretty much just you talking to whoever is watching your stream and perhaps you engaging with the comments, this allows you to have up to 4 people take a seat. So yourself and up to 3 others, and you decide who's sitting in the seat or not. So kind of it's like a 2x2 grid. And there's a chat window on the side, so the people that are watching are engaging and asking questions. There's a tweet button and a Twitter stream on the left side of it. And it's in beta still. They're just beginning. But I got to tell you, where I did not ever want to conduct interviews on Google Hangouts, I participated in a lot, but I never wanted to conduct my own. I saw this and I thought, this is it. These guys get it, and this is a powerful platform. And so I've already begun recording my Joel Comm show, which was a podcast only on this platform. And when you can record it, and when your show is done and you end it, it sends you a link immediately to a high-quality MP3 and a high-quality MP4, so you can have the video of the whole thing as well. And what's really impressive, Derek, is the video quality of the recording, I believe, is superior to what I'm seeing on my screen while I'm recording it, because I'm dealing with the streaming issues, of people being recorded going through their pipe and my pipe, but they're pulling it in directly from each person's connection. And so the quality of the video is really pretty good.
Wow. All right. Okay. Well, I'm I'm testing it out. So
Well, if you want to see it, I know that the recording, what we're talking about now, your members will hear later. But if you want to join me this afternoon at 3 Mountain Time, I'm interviewing Michael Stelzner on blab.im. Go over to my Facebook page and you'll see a link to it, and you can join. And then you can put the link in the show notes so people who are listening to this later can go see what it looks like.
for sure, absolutely. And what page was that?
It's blab.im
Yeah.
/Joel Comm, and it'll show you the shows that I have scheduled, or it'll show you if I'm on air. And they have this cool little thing. You can see the shows, and you can actually subscribe to the show and get a little notification when it's starting so that you can click the link and come on in.
Fantastic.
I love it, and I'm telling you right now that the live streaming is the new blogging, and I think blab.im has struck gold.
Wow. It sounds like it. It sounds like they've pulled together what needs to be pulled together, and have done it right. And just as a side note, reliability has been solid.
Yeah, so far, I mean, there's always issues. It depends on the individual's connection.
Sure.
So if you've got somebody that's got a horrible connection, then of course that's going to be reflected in the stream, and you kick them from the seat and you bring somebody else in. But most of us have good connections, and they just launched the first iOS app, so you can actually do it not just from your desktop but also from your phone now. Now, I haven't tried it from my phone. It's the first release. It's still beta. I'm a little concerned, but I've watched some others from my phone.
Okay, great.
You will be blabbing soon, Derek.
I will. I will be.
We'll be blabbers.
We'll blabber, absolutely, for sure. Okay, all right. So let's reel ourselves back in from that very valuable tangent, and a little look into the future of where I think a lot of online interviews, stuff like that, are going. Now let's go back to Twitter. All right, and this is where I want to pick your brain, because Twitter's. I talk to so many people and they say I don't get it. Right? Like, how do I use this thing? I know what it is. I mean, most people know what Twitter is, right? 140 characters, microblogging. How do I use this to grow my business, right? We see the celebrities, we see, authors, people that have following, news sites, stuff like that, utilizing it. And you kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. But how is the average small business going to use it to A, get more customers, B, sell more stuff to existing customers?
Okay, great questions. And I think, when you say we know what Twitter is, I think if you were to ask 100 people what is Twitter, you're probably going to get about 20 different answers with 100 different flavors of what it is, right? Because everybody perceives what it is. But really, all social media is really real world engagement, just created on a unique platform, that's got features that are unique to that. But, is an overall philosophy towards all social, not just Twitter. These are real people on the other side of every device, every computer, with their own stuff, their own personality, their hopes, dreams, fears, wishes, failures, aspirations, experiences. And so a starting mindset for any business is to understand you're not dealing with the platform, you're dealing with the people. Because ultimately, none of us are really in the business of selling a product or service. We might wrap what we do in a product or service, but we're in the business of serving people. And when we as business people approach social media as how do I use this platform, they're losing sight of the goal of what it is they're wanting to do. The real question is, how do I serve people using Twitter? Not how do I sell more products or services. I think those who really get social, and Twitter in particular, approach it with a relationship-oriented mindset, saying, how do I use this platform to create the most value? How do I engage in existing conversation and bring value to that conversation? And how do I become a conversation starter that other people will want to engage with? Because it's all about like, know, and trust, right? We've heard this mantra again and again, like me, know me, trust me, pay me. And it's got to be done in that order. So if we apply it to Twitter, Derek, when we like somebody on Twitter, what's the first action we do?
when we like somebody on Twitter?
Yeah, we follow them, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
click that follow button. Says, okay, I like you enough to listen to what you have to say.
Sure.
So we follow the tweets, and we then discover from what this person tweets out or what this brand tweets, are they bringing value? Are they sharing content? Are they engaging with me? Are they asking questions, answering questions? Are the links that they're posting valuable? Or are they just talking about themselves? Are they just saying, buy my stuff? So from what people post, after we follow them, we can decide as we get to know them whether we trust them or not. And if we don't trust them, odds are we're going to unfollow them. They won't. That conversation won't continue because we perceive it was never there in the first place. But if they do a good job of sharing real life, themselves, what their concerns are for us, providing value and engaging in real relationship as human beings, we like them, we get to know them, we begin to trust them, and it's a very short hop from trust to transaction. So one of the biggest mistakes people make on Twitter is signing up for their Twitter account and hopping on the soapbox in the middle of town square, pulling out their megaphone and saying, buy my stuff, which of course turns everybody off. It's not like media was in, when we were growing up. You turn on the TV, there's an advertisement and a call to action. You open a newspaper, there's your articles and there's ads. Turn on the radio, listen to your show, and there's ads with a call to action. Social media isn't like that. It's a conversation. And so in its simplest form, with my very long-winded reply, it's about engaging in real human conversation with other real humans.
Okay. So here's a question that I get a lot, and a question frankly I've asked. Why would I use Twitter and Facebook?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a question you have to ask yourself first and foremost. Before I say everybody should be on Twitter, I want to preclude this by saying don't let anybody should on you, right? We're all free agents. We're all adults, and we decide throughout our lives what we'll do and what we won't do. And if I listen to every guru that told me what I should do, just in the social media realm, it would mean that I'd have to be on Facebook, both personally and posting as a page, and I'd have to be advertising, and I'd have to be on Twitter, and I'd have to be on LinkedIn, and on YouTube, and on Pinterest, and on Instagram, and on Meerkat, and Periscope, and Blab, and Google Plus, and Stumble Upon, and SlideShare, and oh my gosh, the list goes on and on and on, and we could completely be overwhelmed and lose ourselves. So I don't want to should anybody and tell them that if you're not on Twitter, you're making a huge mistake. I will say that Twitter has 300 million active users. And if you are a business person, especially seeking to reach consumers, this is where people are going to have a drink, right? If Twitter is the water cooler of our time, and I like to characterize it that way because the water cooler gives us a visual of getting up from your desk, stretching your legs, going to get a drink from the cooler, and talking, having brief conversations with your coworkers that are also at the water cooler. And those conversations could be quite varied. They could be talking about, the Walking Dead show from last night. They could be talking about the football game. People could be talking about politics. They could be talking about their spouses, their kids, their dogs. At work, they might even be talking about something that's happening at the office. But the point is they're talking, and they're talking about anything and everything. And so Twitter is very much like that, where there are millions of conversations that are taking place. And if, as a business person, people are talking about your type, at least your genre of products, what it is that they need, what it is they want, and they may be talking about you in particular in your brand. So by not being on Twitter, one, you're ignoring the conversation that's taking place when you could be inserting yourself, bringing value to the conversation, and helping people with your products and services. And if you're not on Twitter, your competitors probably are. And they're entering that conversation where you may not be. And so ignoring where people are going in order to have the conversation could be perilous for a business that doesn't pay attention to it.
Okay, so now taking a step back here, you just finished, authored and I think it launched a few months back, Twitter Power 3.0, correct?
Correct. That's right.
So that means there was a 2.0 and a 1.0.
That's correct.
So how is Twitter evolving and changing comparatively today in versus your 3.0 versus what it was in 1.0?
Yeah, well, and actually, of course, there wasn't a 1.0. It was just Twitter Power, who,
Right.
we didn't know it would be so successful, and we would require an update a year later. And what's really funny, Derek, is that version, that 1.0 version that came out in 2009, I wrote it in 2008, came out in 2009, hardcover book, is still no book on Twitter since that time or before then has sold as many copies as that first one. And I think that even though Twitter has grown exponentially in terms of use, I think that people believe they understand how to use it for business. But I think this is also why we're seeing so many people fail, because the assumptions that they have about social media and what Twitter is are erroneous. So the first book came out in 2009. We updated it in 2010. And then 5 years later, we've got Twitter Power 3.0. And in that time, Twitter has grown to 300 million monthly active users, which is probably multiplied, I want to say six times since I wrote the last book. And now it's not uncommon to have celebrities with tens of millions of followers. Twitter has become ubiquitous in media. If a TV program or a movie doesn't have "follow us on Twitter" or a hashtag, then they're totally, 2010, they're missing the boat. And more brands than ever are engaging and interacting with their customers on Twitter. And so there's also been new features such as retweet quotes that allow you to add 116 characters to a retweet that you're sharing. We've got embedded images, which is powerful because we know a picture says 1,000 words. And even though Twitter limits us to 140 characters, they know we want to say more. And so they're letting us do it with pictures. They're letting us do it with 30-second native Twitter videos. And there's lists now. So there's a bunch of new features and functionality and case studies of things we've discovered during this time that merited really not just an update, but a complete rewrite. And to do so, I brought in my fellow author, Dave Taylor, who's also authored many books. And we asked Guy Kawasaki to write the foreword, and the book is out there now and helping a lot of people at twitterpower.com.
Absolutely. And I picked up a copy myself, and I highly recommend anybody going down the Twitter road to pick that up. Now, let's go back to the beginning, because I think this happens probably in more cases than not. People hear about Twitter, I've got an online business or I'm starting online, I need to use Twitter. So you head over to Twitter, you set up your Twitter account, you tweet something, and you go, I got no followers. Nobody's listening. How do you create momentum as somebody that's just getting started to start getting followers and to start building that up?
That's a great question. And, getting started in anything is always one of the most challenging hurdles to discover that, okay, I can really do this. So on Twitter, the key is to really start following people that interest you. Whether it's in things that interest you personally, celebrities that you like to follow, brands that you like to follow, products that you use, and then do a search by a hashtag, which is basically the Twitter search term we use. It's just a pound sign before whatever the word is we're looking for, that is searching for products or services in your particular niche. So, if you're a camera shop going online, you might do a search for hashtag camera, hashtag photography, hashtag Nikon, Canon. And that's going to pull up tweets of people that are talking about the same thing. And you might discover that there's some real experts out there, and you start following them. and you're engaging with them. Somebody might ask a question about a Canon camera and you might have the answer. You answer that question and then they're like, oh, thanks for the answer. And now they might follow you. Your answer is real good. They might favorite your tweet or retweet you and share your answer with their followers. It's very much the idea of bringing value to the conversation and trusting the process. That the more you engage, the more you give, the more you bring your expertise and your authentic self to Twitter, the more people are going to pick up on that and say, I want to follow this guy. I want to follow this gal. They know something. They're interesting. And that's how you start building, by entering the conversation. I kind of, Derek, I like to see it as, let's say somebody's invited you to this big party, but you don't know anybody there. And you walk into this room and you're a little overwhelmed because there's just hundreds of pockets of people in their little circles, some of them in groups of 2, some of them in groups of 20, and they're laughing and they're talking, and you walk by a group and they're talking about something totally uninteresting to you, and you keep walking, and then you walk by another one and they're talking about how the Bears, lost again, and you just can't stomach any more of that. And then you come upon another group and they're talking about a TV show that you love, and so you kind of make your way into that circle and you listen, and then you enter the dialogue in the conversation when you have something to say, and now you've made yourself part of this conversation. And I love the visual of it, the metaphor, because it really is human nature. This is how we work. This is how we relate to one another. And Twitter is all of that without us being in the same room, in the same place at the same time.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think there's a fear, people, well, it goes back to forums. I think it's about, 90% of the people lurk and 10% actually participate, right? And I see that on Twitter as well. So getting involved in the conversation, getting out there and participating is, from what you're saying, is the only way, right?
Yeah, so there's people that recommend you buy followers. I'm strongly opposed to that. Inflating numbers just to impress people is not going to get you more engagement and more interactivity. And I look at it this way: if somebody's courageous enough to start a business or to believe enough about the product or service they're selling, then they're courageous enough to take that step and engage in conversation.
Got it. So now looking at, you mentioned buying followers, you mentioned not doing that, and I totally agree. You can go to Fiverr and you can buy 1,000 followers. That's not going to do you any good. But there's also, and this is a question I get all the time, is how do I outsource this? Can I pay somebody to do Twitter for me? And my personal opinion is, as a small business, you need to be kind of the voice of that business, and it's very difficult to outsource. What's your position on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Social media is primarily about authenticity. It's about bringing your best self or your worst self, as long as you bring yourself, right? It's okay to even have a bad day on social media, because then people go, wow, I can relate to that. You're struggling with this, that, or whatever it is. But bringing yourself, I think, is important. That's why I really love the brands, especially the big brands that put a human face with their Twitter profile rather than just a company logo. When I see a human face, I'm far more likely to follow a brand, because I know there's a real person there who is in charge of managing the relationships with their customers via social media, rather than some faceless, nameless person that's hiding behind Coca-Cola or McDonald's or whatever, and you don't know who they are you're dealing with. You're dealing with, it's a sterile type of environment, and I want real people that have real likes, that they're willing to share. I would much rather see a brand person posting for a brand telling me that they enjoyed a TV show or a certain song that's out now, than telling me that they've got a new flavor of Oreo cookie. Just show me a real person.
Yeah. The now, as Twitter's continuing to evolve, so we've been talking about participating in conversations and such and building your following that way, but Twitter's now evolving. Obviously, they need to become profitable as a company. I'm not sure if they are yet. Do you know if they are?
I think Twitter is struggling. Twitter's
Yeah.
making some missteps, and I'm actually, while you can't ignore the platform because there are so many people using it, and it is such a ubiquitous part of the social media scene. I think Twitter needs some help in order to retain people who sign up, because the fact is, even with 300 million active users, they've probably had 1 billion people sign up. That means there's 700,000 inactive users. That's a big problem, especially when Facebook has done such a great job of capturing 1.4 billion users that use it regularly.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, that's one of my beefs with Twitter is there are so many dormant accounts. I mean, I'll be honest, I had a problem. Somebody grabbed my name before I did on Twitter.
Squatter.
And it's sat there now for, I don't know, probably, just about a decade, I guess. And I've been unable to get Twitter to even move on that, although nobody's posted to it in many, many years.
Yeah,
right?
Twitter squatters, Twitter squatters are horrible. And I think that Twitter should have a policy that if you have not tweeted in a year, we send you a warning.
Yeah.
And if it's 2 years, we take the name back.
Yeah.
And that I think that would be more than fair, plenty of time for somebody to decide whether they're going to use it or not. If you're not going to use it, get off the domain, get off the name.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think though they're balancing that against the marketing hype of claiming X amount of accounts, right? So if they had to shut all those accounts down, that might deflate their numbers. Now, that's my speculation. I don't know if that's the case, but I'd love to have my account back. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the numbers that they claim they're saying that there are accounts that are active within a month. That's where they're pulling the 300 million number from. Is that accurate? Who knows? Who knows who massages numbers and for what reasons? All I know is that Twitter needs marketers. They're not doing a good job with selling advertising. I don't think they know really how to monetize this thing. And since they're a public company now, shareholders aren't very happy.
Yeah, well, and that's it. And that's where because they're a public company, I was hoping that this was going to cause them to evolve quite quickly and develop a good paid advertising platform that made sense, as Facebook did, right? Facebook now has a great platform. Where do you see that going with Twitter?
So I think Twitter could really get a leg up by opening up an Adsense-like platform that make the tweets embeddable on websites and allow advertisers to contextually hit other sites, right? Because there's plenty of us that would love to have other ways to monetize our websites. I'd love to see Facebook do it too. Tell me that they don't have enough people that are willing to pay to have their posts show up on other sites that are targeted for them. And I think they could pull it off, but Facebook likes to be really insulated.
Yeah, they absolutely do. All right, so I think we're running out of time here. So last question I want to throw to you is, over the years there's been tons of tools, tons of automation for managing your Twitter accounts and researching and stuff like that. Is there anything out there that you would say to the listeners, hey guys, this is a great tool for helping you automate, grow research on Twitter?
Well, when we talk about automating, I think it's important that we understand we're talking about scheduling tweets.
Yes.
For example, I'm not a big fan of auto DMing, direct messaging somebody when they follow you. And there's people that do that still. There's tools you can use that when somebody follows you, it automatically sends them a DM, and it's copy and paste. It's it's canned and it's not real. I'm not a fan of that. I've tried it, because we've all tried these things, and then we make a decision: is this work for us or not? And I'm not a fan. But there are good scheduling tools like Hootsuite and Buffer that, let's say, you've got some things you want to share during the day or overnight, but you're going to be in meetings or whatever, and you want to drip it out over the day. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is when people put stuff out there and then they never look at how people reply to them. or if there's questions that come up. They use it as a one-way broadcast tool, and they never favorite, they never retweet other people, they never reply, and that removes the social from social media. They're treating it just as a broadcast channel, and that's not what it is.
Agreed. And to that point, I would second, I'm a big fan of Buffer app. I've used Hootsuite. I think it's great for bigger organizations, but for those getting started, Buffer app's just a fantastic tool for scheduling.
I agree.
So yeah, I would totally echo your comments there. And, last question for you. And I said last question was the last question, but I got one more for you.
Okay.
So any tips you have 140 characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Any tips to maximizing the value of those 140 characters?
Well, the short answer is choose your words, carefully. But the more colorful answer is use photos. People love pictures. And now that we can embed photos into the Twitter stream so people don't just see your words, but see your pictures, they're very attention-getting. Videos as well, but especially pictures. People aren't quite used to seeing videos on Twitter yet, which could be a good reason to say do it now because they could grab eyeballs. But I'm a big fan of making photo quotes where I'll take a picture of either myself or somebody else, and I'll use an app like WordSwag or PicLab or Canva to create a really attractive photo quote that puts some nice type design, some sort of quote, usually my own, on top of this photo, and then post it. And people really seem to enjoy that. I know I do. They like them, they favorite, they retweet them, they engage with them if they touch them. And those photo quotes can be something that's educational. It could be something that's inspirational. It could be something that's just plain funny. In fact, I got such a great response to these that one of the books I published is nothing but a photo quote on each page, along with a one-paragraph description of the idea behind, the origin of this photo quote, what the story is. And I called it social poetry.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, sorry, I was just writing that down. So that's called social poetry.
Yeah, in fact, Derek, I want to offer a gift to all your members. I want to give them a free copy of Social Poetry, along with a free copy of the latest edition of my AdSense Secrets ebook. If they want to make money with Google, it's almost 300 pages, and it's for sale on Amazon. But I've got a special link that I want you to just don't share it publicly, but share with your members. And they can go to comm.us, comm.us. That's my URL shortener.
Good.
/Joel bonus. And on that page, they'll be able to access 3 books that they can instantly download. And that's just my way of saying thank you for having me on the show. And for those who are listening, I hope they've enjoyed the content and are able to walk away with something actionable.
Well, that's fantastic, and that's very, very generous of you. And for everybody listening, I'll include those links in the show notes as well, so that you can take advantage of those. And I've read many of Joel's books, and they're always packed with information, usable strategies that you can use on your business to start getting more results. So I'd highly recommend you take him up on that generous offer. So, Joel, thanks very much for your time today. I muchly appreciate it. I enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to having you in the future as we explore some of the other topics that you've mastered over your career.
That's my pleasure, Derek. Thanks again.
All right, everybody. That was Joel Comm, and this is the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast. And we've got some more incredible interviews coming up over the coming weeks. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed on iTunes so you don't miss out. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
You're listening to the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast, where we aim to simplify online business so you can make more money. Now, here's your host, Derek Gale.